There exists a dimension of human capability that most never access, a realm where ordinary actions transcend their boundaries and become expressions of something far greater. The 13th century mystic philosopher Ibn Arabi, known as the greatest master, understood this paradox, that true mastery is not about achieving what others expect, but about embodying a level of excellence that emerges from a profound understanding of existence itself. In the shadows of our modern obsession with productivity and achievement lies a forgotten truth. We are taught to measure ourselves against benchmarks, to compete, to reach predetermined standards. But Ibn Arabi's teachings reveal something unsettling. The highest levels of mastery have nothing to do with meeting expectations and everything to do with transcending the very framework that creates them. This is not about working harder or longer. This is about a fundamental transformation in how you relate to the act itself. Whether it's creating art, building a business, writing a sentence, or simply living your life. Ibn Arabi introduced a concept that most people find either liberating or terrifying. You already possess the seeds of ultimate perfection. The problem is not that you lack something essential, but that you fail to recognize what is already present within you. He described the human being as a mirror, not an ordinary mirror, but one polished to such perfection that it reflects the divine attributes themselves. When you perform any task, writing, painting, problem-solving, connecting with another person, you are either acting from the limited perspective of your conditioned self, or you are allowing something infinite to express itself through you. The difference is not in effort or talent, it's in recognition. The great tragedy is that most people spend their entire lives trying to become something they already are, chasing a perfection they never lost. This is where Ibn Arabi's philosophy becomes dangerously practical. He taught that achieving mastery at unexpected levels requires understanding the principle of wahdat al-wujud, the unity of being. This is not mystical nonsense. It's a precise description of how reality operates. When you grasp that there is no fundamental separation between you and the source of all creativity, between your limited self and infinite potential, your actions begin to carry a different quality. The anxiety that drives much of human effort begins to dissolve, replaced by something more powerful. A relaxed intensity where commitment exists without desperation, where focus exists without fear. Ibn Arabi was deeply interested in alchemy, not as a medieval superstition, but as a metaphor for spiritual and practical transformation. The alchemist's goal was transmutation, turning lead into gold. But the real alchemy Ibn Arabi described was the transformation of ordinary consciousness into perfected awareness, and thereby transforming ordinary action into extraordinary manifestation. The process begins with what he called fana, self-annihilation. This sounds dramatic, but it means something specific and achievable. It means the temporary dissolution of the small, anxious, calculating self that constantly measures itself against others. When you sit down to create something, there's usually a voice asking, "Is this good enough? Will people approve? How does this compare?" That voice is the obstacle. Fana is the moment when that voice disappears, not through force or suppression, but through a shift in perspective so profound that the question itself becomes irrelevant. When you achieve this state, even for moments, your work takes on a different character. You're no longer creating from limitation and fear. You're creating from wholeness. And others can sense this even if they can't articulate why your work affects them differently. This state is followed by baka, subsistence in the divine. This is where you return to ordinary consciousness and individual action, but with a crucial difference. Your ego has been replaced by a kind of transparent awareness. You act, but you're no longer imprisoned by the need for your actions to define you. This is the secret of those rare individuals who seem to operate at levels that defy explanation. They're working from baka, from a place where personal limitation has been seen through. One of Ibn Arabi's most provocative teachings concerns what he called the station of no station. Most people on any path of mastery, whether spiritual, artistic, or professional, think in terms of levels, stages, achievements. You're a beginner, then intermediate, then advanced, then perhaps a master. This framework is useful initially, but it eventually becomes a cage. The highest masters, according to Ibn Arabi, have transcended all stations. They no longer identify with any fixed level of achievement because they understand that perfection is not a static state, but a dynamic relationship with reality. The true master treats every person as though they already are what they're capable of becoming, because the master sees potential not as future possibility, but as present reality waiting to be recognized. This has profound implications for how you approach any endeavor. If you're trying to become a writer, the conventional approach is to accept that you're not there yet and work towards some future competence. But the approach Ibn Arabi suggests is radically different. Recognize that the awareness capable of writing brilliantly is already present in you. Your job is not to acquire it, but to remove the obstacles that prevent its expression. These obstacles are almost never what people think they are. They're not lack of training or experience, those matter, but they're secondary. The real obstacles are psychological and perceptual, the belief that you are fundamentally separate from excellence, that mastery is something outside you that must be imported through years of struggle. This belief becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. At the center of Ibn Arabi's teachings is the concept of al-insan al-kamil, the perfect human. This is not a moral judgment or religious ideal. It's a description of what human beings are capable of becoming when they fully actualize their potential. The perfect human, in Ibn Arabi's vision, is one who has realized the divine attributes within themselves. What does this mean practically? It means developing qualities that seem contradictory: absolute strength and absolute gentleness, perfect discipline and complete spontaneity, intense focus and total openness. The perfect human is not rigid or one-dimensional. They contain multitudes. They can move between states fluidly because they're not attached to any single identity. When you approach any task from this perspective, the quality changes. You're not trying to prove something or defend an image of yourself. You're allowing the task itself to reveal what it needs. This is why truly great work often seems effortless, not because it didn't require effort, but because the effort was aligned with something larger than personal ambition. The concept of the perfect human also includes the idea of being a barzakh, an isthmus, or intermediary between different levels of reality. This means the mastered individual serves as a bridge, translating the invisible into the visible, the potential into the actual. When you watch someone performing at levels that seem impossible, whether in sports, art, business, or any field, you're witnessing this principle in action. They've become a conduit for something that transcends their individual limitations. Ibn Arabi made a crucial distinction between two types of knowledge: rational knowledge acquired through study and books, and direct divine knowledge that comes through unveiling, through kashf. This distinction reveals why some people study for decades and remain mediocre, while others seem to grasp the essence of things almost instantly. Rational knowledge is necessary. Ibn Arabi himself was extraordinarily learned, having written approximately 500 works. But at a certain point, all that accumulated knowledge must be sacrificed. This is another meaning of fana. You must be willing to not know, to step beyond the safety of your accumulated expertise into direct encounter with reality. This is where most people stop. The academic studies their field exhaustively, but never makes the leap into original contribution. The artist masters technique, but never finds their unique voice. The spiritual seeker collects teachings, but never experiences transformation. They remain in the realm of mediated knowledge, never accessing the direct knowing that would elevate their work to unexpected levels. The path of unveiling requires courage, because it demands that you trust something you cannot control or even fully understand. When you're creating something, anything, from this place of direct knowing, you cannot predict the outcome. You cannot guarantee that it will meet conventional standards because you're working from a different source. This is risky. It's also the only way to produce work that genuinely surprises, that operates at levels others cannot anticipate. Ibn Arabi described this as perceiving things as signs of the divine, rather than merely as objects or facts. When you look at your materials, whether words, paint, data, or human relationships, as signs pointing toward infinite depth rather than as mere tools to manipulate, your relationship with them transforms. You become more receptive, more attuned to possibilities you wouldn't have imagined through pure calculation. Another principle central to Ibn Arabi's philosophy is that the human being is a microcosm containing the entire macrocosm. You are not a small, isolated fragment of reality. You are a hologram containing the whole. Every divine attribute, every cosmic principle, every pattern that governs existence, all of it is reflected within you. This is not metaphorical flattery. It's a precise description that has practical consequences. If you truly understood that you contain within yourself the same creative principles that generated galaxies, the same intelligence that organized evolution, the same beauty that manifests in sunset and symphony, if you really grasped this, how would it change your approach to any task? Most people operate from a sense of scarcity and limitation. I don't have enough talent, time, resources, intelligence. But from the perspective Ibn Arabi articulates, this is a perceptual error. You have access to infinite resources because you are not separate from the source of all resources. The question is not whether you have what you need, but whether you recognize and align with what you already possess. This recognition is what separates ordinary competence from extraordinary mastery. The competent person works within their limitations, managing and optimizing them. The master operates from a different paradigm entirely. They've realized that the limitations were never absolute, that consciousness itself is the primary creative force, and that by shifting consciousness, you shift what's possible. Ibn Arabi described the spiritual path as a journey of return, not going somewhere new but returning to what you've always been. The soul, he taught, is a gift from the divine that seeks to return to its source. But this return is not an escape from the world or from action. It's a transformation of how you engage with both. The journey involves what he called struggling with nafs, the lower self or ego. This is the part of you that constantly compares, fears, grasps and defends. It's not evil. It's simply limited. The struggle is not to destroy it, but to see through it, to recognize its voice without being controlled by it. As you progress on this journey, you pass through stages. Ibn Arabi described these as ascending waypoints that unveil increasingly profound levels of insight. But here's the paradox. The journey is not linear. You don't simply move from ignorance to knowledge in a straight line. Instead, you spiral, returning to the same issues, the same challenges, but each time from a deeper level of understanding. This is why mastery in any field often looks circular rather than progressive. The master returns to basics, to fundamentals, but now executes them with a depth that transforms their meaning entirely. A master calligrapher returns to the most basic strokes. A master musician returns to simple scales. A master strategist returns to first principles. But these simple elements are now infused with everything they've learned, creating complexity through simplicity. One of the most practical and often misunderstood aspects of Ibn Arabi's teaching is his insistence that the material world itself is sacred. Unlike some spiritual traditions that view matter as obstacle or illusion, Ibn Arabi saw the physical realm as a doorway into spiritual reality. Everything material is a majaz, a metaphor pointing toward the divine. This means that mastering any craft, any skill, any area of knowledge is itself a spiritual practice. The carpenter working with wood, the programmer working with code, the parent working with children, all of these are opportunities for the kind of transformation Ibn Arabi described. There is no hierarchy where meditation is spiritual, but daily work is mundane. Everything becomes spiritual when approached with the right awareness. This perspective revolutionizes how you approach mastery. You're not trying to escape your particular field to find enlightenment elsewhere. Your field, whatever it is the exact vehicle through which your perfection can manifest. The depth you bring to your craft is inseparable from the depth you bring to your self-understanding. Ibn Arabi also emphasized that achieving perfection requires adherence to Sharia, sacred law or structure. This is easily misunderstood as mere religious rule-following, but he meant something more universal. True mastery requires discipline, structure, principles. You cannot transcend form until you've mastered form. The artist who never learned technique cannot claim that their lack of skill is spiritual freedom. They've simply never done the work. The perfect human, in Ibn Arabi's vision, is not someone who transcends all rules and structures, but someone who has internalized them so completely that they become spontaneous. The master follows principles without thinking about them because those principles have become their nature. This is what allows for action at unexpected levels. The foundation is so solid that innovation becomes natural. The doctrine of Wahdat al-Wujud, unity of being, is perhaps Ibn Arabi's most famous and most misunderstood teaching. Simplified, it means that existence is ultimately one, that all apparent multiplicity emerges from and returns to a single reality. But what does this have to do with mastering your craft? Everything. When you truly grasp that separation is illusion, that you are not fundamentally divided from the source of creativity itself, a shift occurs. The anxiety that fuels much of human striving, the fear that you're not enough, that you're isolated and must fight for your place, begins to dissolve. In its place emerges something unexpected, a kind of relaxed intensity where you can be completely committed to your work without your identity being dependent on its success. This state is what allows for breakthrough innovation and unexpected excellence. When you're not defending a fragile ego, when you're not constantly measuring yourself against others, when you're not imprisoned by the need to maintain a certain image, you become free to experiment, to fail, to explore territories that others avoid because they're too risky. This is where the unexpected emerges. The unity of being also means that every obstacle, every challenge, every apparent failure is ultimately an expression of the same reality that produces success. This doesn't mean you become passive or indifferent. It means you relate to difficulties differently. Instead of fighting against reality, you work with its grain, finding the creative possibilities within each constraint. Masters in any field demonstrate this quality. They seem to turn problems into opportunities with uncanny consistency, not through positive thinking or denial, but through a fundamental recognition that reality is workable, that everything contains potential. This comes from understanding unity. There's nowhere you can be that's outside the creative process itself. Ibn Arabi's philosophy offers something rare, a vision of human potential that is simultaneously mystical and practical, transcendent and embodied. He didn't teach escape from the world, but transformation within it. He didn't promise that spiritual realization would make life easy, but that it would make you capable of engaging with life at depths previously unimaginable. When you approach any endeavor, creating a business, raising a child, making art, solving problems, from this transformed perspective, the activity itself becomes different. You're no longer just trying to accomplish a goal. You're engaging in a process of self-revelation. The external result matters, but it's secondary to the internal transformation that occurs through devoted practice. This is why the masters in various fields often seem to care deeply about their work, while simultaneously not being attached to outcomes. It's not a contradiction. It's the natural result of understanding that the work itself is the point, that the perfection is in the doing rather than in the having done. When you create from this place, others can sense it. Your work carries a quality of presence, of authenticity, of depth that cannot be faked or manufactured through technique alone. The levels you can reach are not determined by your starting talent or circumstances, but by your willingness to undergo this transformation. Ibn Arabi's message is simultaneously humble and audacious. You already have everything you need, but you must be willing to see through everything you think you are. This seeing through is not comfortable. It requires what he called the spiritual ascension, a journey through the layers of self-deception and limitation that most people spend their lives defending. At the end of this exploration, we return to the image of the mirror. Ibn Arabi taught that the perfect human is a polished mirror in which divine attributes are clearly reflected. But mirrors do not create light. They reflect it. The mastery you seek is not something you generate through willpower. It's something you allow by removing the distortions that prevent clear reflection. This is perhaps the most liberating and challenging aspect of Ibn Arabi's teaching. You cannot force yourself to operate at unexpected levels through mere effort, but you can systematically remove the obstacles, the false beliefs, the limiting identities, the fearful grasping that prevent your natural excellence from expressing itself. You can polish the mirror until it becomes transparent to something greater than your individual self. When you do this, when you genuinely make this shift, your work, whatever it is, begins to carry qualities that others cannot explain. It's not that you've acquired supernatural powers, it's that you've stopped interfering with natural powers that were always available. You've become what Ibn Arabi called a barzakh, a bridge between potential and actual, between the infinite and the finite. The art of doing anything at a level no one expects is not, ultimately, about exceeding others' expectations. It's about exceeding your own limitations by recognizing they were never absolute. It's about accessing dimensions of capability that exist within you, but remain dormant until you undergo the kind of transformation Ibn Arabi described. It's about becoming so transparent to reality that you cease to be an obstacle to excellence and become instead its natural expression. This is the secret that Ibn Arabi, the greatest master, spent his life articulating in hundreds of texts and thousands of pages. But the secret is simple, even if actualization is demanding. You are already what you seek to become. The journey is not acquisition, but recognition. And recognition, when it comes, transforms everything, including what you thought possible.